Hello, everyone, and welcome in. I hope you're all doing well here. I know I am very excited to get back into this one. I think Necomancer's been doing a fantastic job with this story, and I'm enjoying the characters, I'm enjoying the interactions. I'm very eager to see where this one goes. So as far as notes go, I don't know that I actually have much for opening notes tonight. So we are probably going to just more or less dive right in and start in on the story here. Chapter 4, Chapter 3, Captured. Seriously, we should leave the evil-talking, glowing skull behind. Falor looked ahead at the head of the robot who'd tried to kill them. She looked at it a lot since they'd gotten it, mostly to make sure it hadn't moved. I think you're going to scare enough people without it. Parsons picked up a small, square, gray device from the front console. It had buttons and an antenna. He clicked a button and said,
"Hello?"
into the device, and a speaker on Termi said,
"Hello?"
back in Parsons' voice.
"Okay, I'm going to keep in contact with it. I've given it orders to let me know if any other of its kind approach. It can talk to me through this communicator."
He attached the communicator to its belt, securing it. The hole on the side of Termi had been mostly patched up with scrap metal and pieces of wood they'd salvaged. It had taken a few hours of work. It looked horrible, but it was better than having a giant hole, and that's all Parsons cared about. He was never much for appealing designs. He just liked it when things worked, something rare enough without having to add pretty lights and such. Falor had grabbed a pistol. Parsons had his rifle and his knife. Hello, Delta Free. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. If you aren't already familiar with Delta Free, they are also a streamer here on Twitch. They've been doing some, I believe it is Signalis, but their voice is also very calming, very gentle, something I strongly encourage you to give a listen to if you get a chance. Is everything alright, Delta Free? Are you okay? I'll give Delta Free just a moment to respond here. I certainly hope you're doing alright. You knew I was going to shout you out? Well, of course. I like to shout out some of the wonderful people in my audience, and it's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining in, and I do hope you're not too upset with me for bragging about how awesome you are, because I enjoy it. The other weapons were left behind and locked up.
"What do you know about this place?"
We call it Delacha, small village we sometimes trade with. The fort here is owned by a local baron and used as a small military outpost. But we should be careful. Okay, can you remind me why we are here?
"There's a bunker under this fort. Shalana's people made it. It should have the location of other bunkers, if nothing else. The one I was at only showed where 3 others are, possibly for safety reasons."
Either way, you're appreciating it. Oh, that's really good to hear, Delta Free. I know you respond to Cafe, but if you're using the name Delta Free, let's try and use it. How goes the story reading? We are just getting started, and already I'm smiling a bit because I really enjoy this one. And it's good stuff. It really is. As he walked, he heard the crunch of the dirt road that led toward the village under his feet, wishing he could feel the dirt. but the metal and synthetic leather material of his armor kept that from him. He glanced back at Terni, their house.
The robotic terrors. I said I'd tell you what they are. Basically, we built metal people for many services, but converted them for war. We gave them simple minds and unleashed them on our enemies.
It sounds pretty well written from what you've heard. Yeah, well, and I also like kind of the character designs for some of these too. Like, the Parsons is generally humanoid, but has 4 arms, as all members of his species do, and has a elongated crocodilian snout. So rather than kind of the conventional humanoid face, Falor is described as what a spider would look like if you squished another spider into its torso, and has 5 eyes asymmetrically on her face. So and Necomancer has done some interesting things with creating these creatures, and I like that. I like that these are not beings that are only humanoid and roughly human in shape. It's a nice touch. Hello, Brian. Welcome in. Glad you're beginning here. Good to see you. As they walked toward the village, Falor looked behind her, where they had left the very dangerous skull. You created life. No wonder they're so angry.
They're not alive.
I honestly wonder if they agree. She looked at Shalana, being held against Parsons by his lower arms. If I met my creator, I'd probably want to give them a slap too. Do you have any idea what a nightmare it is to keep oil build up on my back legs down?
Thankfully, I do not.
You're late? No? Oh, you're not that late, Necomancer. We've barely begun the journey into town here, after establishing that the skull can be used as a communications terminal. She would totally slap you, Necomancer. I believe it. Ooh, this is giving Delta Free some inspiration to rework some of their less detailed designs. Heck yeah. Necomancer, why are you supporting your own character slapping you for existence? Oh dear. Yes, and Delta Free, Necomancer here is the author of this particular work. He requested that I read it, so I'm very glad that he did, because it's a wonderful time. Parsons made sure his gun was behind his back on a strap as he walked through the small gathering of buildings with a market nearby made of stalls and shouting people, most of whom went quiet as he walked by. Parsons never liked being the center of attention, and right now he felt every eye on him. It was the height, really. That and the guns. People noticed guns like his, and he towered over everyone else. He occasionally looked back at them and noticed most people liked the people who had ambushed them. Slits for nostrils, pale skin, hooves, 3 arms, and a few looked even odder. He saw someone with short red fur, possibly feathers, and a beak with a tail nearly as big as the rest of him. He saw a person with eyes all around their head and a single bit of hair on top, who walked on spindly insect legs. He saw a small child run past them, unafraid of them, who crawled on 6 limbs. He didn't have time to see if they were legs or arms. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying. You made cleaning her back legs a nightmare? Oh my goodness. The music might be competing with my voice. Oh my goodness, did I not turn it down far enough? Here, let's go ahead and turn the music down a little. Thank you, Kefri, so much for letting me know. I always appreciate having that extra bit of community feedback, because I can't hear my stream while I'm streaming. So thank you very much. Yeah, heck yeah, we got this. Yet somehow, Parsons was the one that stood out. Eventually, someone was brave enough to talk to them. He looked similar to Falor, but with a different number of eyes, and wore spider-like limbs on his back.
You are far from home, aren't you?
He walked with a cane and wore old rags. His hands seemed to bend oddly in the middle, and occasionally they twitched. Falor looked at him. She recognized him. Anger simmered up inside her as she remembered him. In exile? I remember you. You stole food.
What can I say? I was hungry,
said the man as if to dismiss her. We had to feed everyone, and you thought with your own belly alone.
Yes,
he agreed in an infuriatingly calm tone. We had children to feed, young ones.
You are correct.
He continued to concede her point. This only made Falor more angry. Oh, you need to head out, Brian. Alright, take care. Thank you for dropping in, even if only for a little bit. It's always lovely to see you. Falor wanted an argument, and all he did was infuriatingly agree with her. But Parsons spoke up before things could go further.
Do you two know each other?
Personally? No, but I know what he did. There was venom in Falor's tone, and some on her fangs as well. The exile continued to let her anger hang in the air, neither encouraged nor invalidated.
I am not here to fight. I am here because everyone else is afraid of you. My name is...
Exiles have no names.
Then I guess I don't have a name.
He shrugged, looking at Parsons.
You look lost. I can help. Believe it or not, I still care enough about my people that I don't want the local baron to freak out and shoot one because she showed up with a four-armed giant. I would appreciate a rundown of the local baron, but I cannot pay you.
Parsons glanced at Falor, who was still obviously upset, unsure how misplaced, if at all, her anger was. The exile shrugged, leaning on his walking stick.
The story of meeting you alone will get me a few drinks at the locals. The baron is a war hero, or so he claims. Walks with a cane. The cane has a sword in it. He's a proficient fighter, having learned from the legendary warrior Aieeee. Speaking of which...
He turned toward the fort, pointing at it with a back limb.
That's a prison. You want to be careful. The king sends people there he wants to disappear. The baron happily obliges. If you want something from him, be careful. He cares more for what he can get from you than what he can do for you.
He turned back toward them.
Why so interested in such a dangerous man?
Hello, Ghosty. Bonjour. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well here. It's lovely to see you, little lady. Not important! Falor hissed out, and it was a hiss. Parsons turned toward her.
Was stealing food really that bad?
7 children starved. I was almost one of them. Parsons shifted his posture as he held Shalana closer and tightened his muscles.
Do you want me to punch him?
The exile held his hands, palms out. A finger involuntarily twitched.
I know I did wrong. If I could take it back, I would. What can I do now that it's over?
You can start by offering your worthless flesh as a gift to the departed. After a moment of silence, Parsons spoke up.
The frack, Falor?
What? It's a reasonable request, she snapped. The exile took all this in, leaning on his cane. Didn't seem upset by all this, despite the threats and desire for his death.
I know what I did was wrong.
My belly spoke louder than my brain. It was a mistake, and one I would take back if I could. That is all that I can offer. That, and I can get you to the Baron's gates. Better to show up with a local than alone. A very reasonable request. The murder of somebody for the loss of life that his actions caused? Huh. I suppose it depends on your perspective there. The exile looked at Falor, his many eyes focused on her own. He saw nothing but anger and loathing that she held for him. He understood why. He often saw the same glare in his own reflection. She had just been a child when the famine happened, after all, and he had been barely into adulthood. Follow me or don't, but either way it is good to know our kind continue. He turned away and hobbled forward. Even if they didn't want to follow him, he was heading the same direction they wished to go, so follow they did. Parsons kept holding of Shalana and adjusted his gun strap one more time before letting it go. They approached the gates, where 2 guards stood by. 3 arms, like most of the villagers, they wore armor fashioned from leather and held wooden spears with metal tips, primitive guns at their sides. They looked nervous, and only too late did Parsons realize they were not focused on the 9-foot 4-armed alien behemoth in front of them. They were focused on the exile. The exile nodded to them, turned around, and suddenly his cane moved with a swiftness that took them by surprise. Faster than Parsons could process it, he watched the gun strap cut, his weapon fell behind him, and even as he reached for his knife and Falor for the pistol, they both stopped. A wooden sheath fell to the ground as they looked at the blade that was hidden within the cane, and how the tip was pointed at Shalana, so close that if she moved suddenly, he might touch it. Or she might touch it. It is indeed reading time, Rapier. Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Grab his gun. Point it at his back. Hurry! The exile demanded as the guards moved quickly. Falor's hands twitched. She wanted so badly to shoot this man, to kill him, even if she barely understood what was going on. But a guard moved behind her and grabbed her pistol before she could make up her mind on what to do. They felt the guns pressed against their backs as the exile finally put his sword away after he'd picked up its wooden sheath. I apologize, not for starving children here, for being so rude. I thought about being polite, but the girl's outburst made that impossible, I believe, so I took precautions. Her wish to murder me, while understandable, is not exactly acceptable. Mostly messing, honestly, the exile is one of Necomancer's favorite characters, which was unexpected. Aha! I will go more into that at the end of the chapter, Necomancer. What are you doing? Falor shouted, finally as she found her voice, loud enough for everyone to hear and angry enough for most to pretend they didn't. There is a bunker under this fort. We don't know what's inside it. The king wishes to know. We believe the hand of Versailles is capable of opening it. You will be kept in one of our prisons until he or a representative arrive, at which point we will open it. That is all. The gates opened to the fort before them. Parsons and Falor marched inside as the exile led them. Parsons quiet as they were taken. Falor quietly fumed, for about 2 seconds before she noisily fumed. We're just looking for other people like Shalana here, or people like Parsons. He's wonderful, strong, brave man, who I should add is capable of great feats of fixing and creating these ancient... Parsons coughed loudly.
Falor, he does not need to know that.
But he
does not need to know anything.
She finally took his meaning and went very quiet. For his part, the exile didn't say anything in response. He could always find it all out later when he interrogated them, after all. He hated it in here. As the mobile trailer plodded along the road, he sat inside its spacious but crowded single room. His hooves scuffed the floor, his 3 arms rest on the seat, his bodyguard next to him, and the driver would not stop talking. His name was Astron, Investigator Astron. His job was to look into every rumor about the bunkers. There were treasure troves of old tech within that the king desired, and despite all attempts, they could never force their way inside. So now here he was, with his bodyguard from the monster clan, an 8-foot-tall brute with a scrawny build, surprising strength, and a huge tendril on the back of his head with a poisoned barb, and the driver, who was supposedly an expert on the people who made the bunkers, something she would not stop talking about. Oh, no, Necomancer, there's nothing wrong with the rants. I mean, I guess unless you mean the rant inside of the text here, which I believe this one you were doing originally inspired by the Anne of Green Gables rants that Anne Shirley was so prone to. I did have one question while we're at it, though. Bodyguard from the Monster Clan, an 8-foot-tall brute. Now, is that Brutalion the same race as Parsons, or is there maybe a different word that you wanted to use there to describe somebody who is large, burly, and not necessarily the most intelligent? I'm curious about that, but I don't necessarily want to worry too much on it. You need to change that? Okay, cool. That just helps me get a better mental image, because I was like, wow, did the Brutalions change that much? My goodness. He disliked her. She was blind in one eye and missing 2 of her arms, leaving only one. That was the only reason he disliked her, an unfair reason, and only one among many unfair reasons. The fact she would not stop talking was another one. Honestly, this isn't the first time someone claimed to have a living brute or psi. It's pretty common, but unless they're alive in the bunkers, they're just plain gone. That's possible, mind you. The bunkers were made not just for war, but for survival. Oh, this road is so bumpy. The Baron really needs to sort these out. Anyway, the psi were obsessed with war more than survival, so the bunkers have more weapons than food, but not all of them. Some were even built with water pumps and farms and livestock. Not that any survived. The brutes pretty much wiped them out. They're big guys, bigger than your bodyguard even, with 4 arms. Not to put down your bodyguard, they seem pretty powerful. Monster Clan usually is, or super weak. Anyways, imagine having 4. Well, I can't even imagine having 3, what with being born with 1, but I honestly, one moment, a tree in the way, I wonder about them. Even the Psi's own writing, you can tell there's a heavy bias. They say the brutes were huge monsters who only enjoyed killing things, but I would like to meet one. I mean, they say the same about the Monster Clan, but I've met some nice ones. I met Adele once. The guy was weird. I bet the brutes are just super territorial and angry, but once in a while I find some records that paint them in a different light. I think it was written by people who didn't fully align with the size societal expectations. Oh shoot, it's going up a hill. Going to struggle a bit with this one. Trailer isn't what it used to be. It's not really what most people would call one, really, since the car isn't attached to it, but I'm not sure what it's called, so I just call it that. I'm not really a mechanic after all. Honestly, the Psi were pretty brutal themselves, horribly so. I don't think even half of us would survive the things the Psi put their kids through. Pretty cool stuff, and yet they're telling us the brutes are the monsters. I mean, it's possible the brutes aggressed and forced them to become like that, but I'm not sure. Anyway, most of these calls are false. People pretending, being fooled, con artists. Most credible ones I've seen were these big old robots that the brutes made in their image, covered in stuff to try and make them look alive. Really, really bad idea. Those robots are thick. Ah, crap, hit a bird. I hope that's okay, but those monsters are vicious. Maybe I should check on the bird? No, I think it's better if we just keep going. Still, if the brutes are like them, I don't know how they made a civilization, though they did, and one better than the Psi, I bet. We actually live in more old brute cities than Psi cities. Psi cities were built for stuff not meant to last, but brute architecture, that stuff was made to last thousands of years, and did. I so want to know how their family structure works, but this stuff, we don't actually know how old most of their stuff is.
What is that thing?
Astron asked quickly. Her mobile home was full of junk. Most of it he recognized, but some of it escaped even his knowledge. The thing he pointed at was an oddly colorful outfit over a metallic puppet with a gray glass face. It seemed mostly yellow, green, and purple, covered in tassels and bells that jingled when they ran over a bump. Oh, let me tell you all about...
I just need to know what it is, that's all.
The woman behind the wheel had to fight with herself to avoid telling him every little detail, but in the end she regrettably won. It's a robot, like the big guys the brutes made, but not at all like a brute. It's a bit like a Psy, but with no tail. Really, it lacks a whole bunch of...
Does it work?
Astron asked as he gave a weird little metal gesture to all renewed interest. No, I've considered taking it apart to see if I can find a power source that works for it. And then I can probably bring it back to life. I think its mask is actually a face. I've also found metal tendrils in its hips and head tassels.
Why is it wearing a...
Ugh, oh my goodness, I need to come up with a actual voice for this guy. The bird bit was based on when you hit a bird mid-flight while driving. Oh no, I do hope they're okay.
Why is it wearing a big black boot?
He asked, desperate to interrupt her again. No idea, can't get it off. You know, if I found it at...
Fascinating. I'm going to sleep. Quiet now, please. Let me know when we arrive at that sad excuse for a fort so I can meet that sad excuse for a baron.
He laid down the nearest furniture long enough to fit him and closed his eyes. She mumbled something he didn't bother to hear. He'd heard enough about this so-called ancient civilizations expert for one lifetime. For what it's worth, that was a lot of fun to ramble out. The exile stood in front of a cell of concrete and metal bars. It had beds, nice ones, but Parsons didn't fit on them. Shalana seemed to prefer Parsons as a place to lay on, and Falor had thrown most of her pillows at the exile. 2 guards flanked him. He was doing his best to be patient. He started to think he should do his worst instead.
I know you think me your enemy, but I had little choice in the matter. If the king found out I let you pass, he'd have my head.
This was met with deep silence, a sort of silence that was a lot. Falor was a fast learner, and she'd learned fast the art of infuriating silence from Parsons.
If you tell me what I need to know, then the investigator has less reason to try and force it out of you, and he will use force.
Oh, so you're going to torture us? Falor said from a pile of blankets she still had.
No, I know as well as anyone that torture does not work.
The exile's hand twitched as Falor looked at it and noticed for the first time how some of his fingers looked warped, as if broken and healed wrong.
The investigator, not though. They're not recruited for their intelligence, they're recruited for their tenacity.
Silence fell again, only to be interrupted by a gasp. She's rolling over! All eyes, even the guards, turned toward Shalana as she began to roll over on Parsons' chest.
Wait, is that important?
Parsons asked. It's a step toward Crawley, the exile...
Oh, it's a step toward Crawley,
the exile began before Falor interrupted him. This has nothing to do with you. Look at her. Oh, she's doing it. Quiet fell over the group as the exile turned and walked away. His guards followed before he left them at the entrance. He had one more day until the investigator arrived, and he looked forward to it, mostly to get this mess over with. He was tired of being reminded of mistakes he'd left behind long ago. Oh, Necomancer looked up future baby developments for this? That's a good one to pick. Abso-heckin-lutely. I love it. Parsons looked down the small blue hand on his nose. He felt the pressure of it through his suit, but nothing else. Shalana had managed to reach him after she rolled and dragged herself forward on his broad chest. Apparently, this was a major event. She's growing fast, starting to get noisier too, Falor said with a smile full of oddly shaped teeth. But it faded when she looked at Parsons. He had that look she'd seen in his eyes every time Shalana reached for him. Every time Falor asked about him, she seemed to regret it, and she knew she'd regret this one. But the words reached her mouth before they reached her brain. Why do you look at her like that?
You can't even see my face.
Parsons said as he looked at Shilana, who put a second hand on him. I can see it in your eyes. Fallow gripped the mattress, afraid of saying more, but even more afraid of saying nothing. I can see the hate. Silence was his answer. Shilana seemed content to bap Parsons on the nose with a palm as he laid on his chest. Eventually, he did find the will to speak.
I don't know how long ago it was. I was in one of our defensive structures, a large fort made for servicing war vehicles. I was in this suit because the enemy used gas attacks and occasionally sent sacrificial troops with weak weapons to distract us from a greater operation.
Development like gestation or nurturing? In this case, it is more of a nurturing type thing. I mean, I guess it's... When I'm thinking gestation, I'm typically thinking of prior to hatching or prior to birthing. But I'm also not much of a biologist, so if you wouldn't mind clarifying the difference between the two, I'd be quite curious to hear what what you mean in this case. But Shilana is already is around the stage of an infant if she were human. Nurturing. Okay, cool. Yeah, glad to clarify that, Delta Free. Parsons looked toward the ceiling with only his eyes as the rest of him went somewhere dark and far away.
We got word there had been a biological attack by the Psi. We asked what border had been hit, then what cities, then what had survived. We abandoned our post searching for something we didn't want to find.
Parsons remembered. He remembered the bodies. They looked like they had fallen down and gone to sleep, like they had just stopped. Stopped moving, stopped working. He tried to forget. He never succeeded. Fowler had, as he talked, quietly picked up Shilana and sat down with her on her lap. Her leg bounced a little one as Shilana let out a presumably happy gurgle.
Eventually, those who chose to keep living converted everything we could for war, and Shilana's people felt our wrath. Now there's just us.
What were they like? Fowler asked with a quiet voice, one afraid to speak. There was a dangerous numbness coming from Parsons. He wasn't here anymore. He'd left, and now she was talking to a puppet that recounted what it knew.
The Psi were horrific, but dying even with the...
Not them. Your family. Something came back. Something that hadn't expected to come back returned within Parsons. He looked over at Fowler as if trying to comprehend what he'd been asked.
I had a rather large family. 2 older siblings and a younger one.
That's large. I have about 15 younger siblings and 1 older one, all from various mothers and fathers. He looked away. Parsons started to remember them.
My mother was a strong woman. Too strong. She treated us like angels who could do no wrong. Even when we did, she'd defend us with this vicious energy.
Parsons shifted where he was. Slowly, he became aware of how uncomfortable the ground was.
Until my older brother broke another student's leg in school. Mom realized slowly that we were getting out of control. She was very strict after that. I'm thankful for it. She taught me how you can be wrong for years and then, when you need to most, change your view and realize your mistakes.
Delphi didn't catch it in the story just from what Necomancer said. Oh, okay. Well, very cool. Parsons looked over at Shilana, He looked back. He looked at her face for what seemed like the first time. Her eyes, all four, looked at him with total trust. They blinked one at a time. The Psy never really kept all their eyes closed, even when sleeping. They always had one eye open. She was also covered in drool. She often was, he was realizing. He'd have to wipe her chin more often. He knew he was supposed to do that at least.
My father was an electrician. The man was a genius, and likely why I became an engineer. He always had a project going. The man couldn't stand still.
Memories of the past. His father letting him help, getting hurt, and his mother and father arguing only for him to cry and beg to be allowed to keep working with his father. It was the only time he really spent with him.
If only I had known him better. But he had told me there was never a time when you couldn't find something that needed fixed.
Parsons stood up, looked over at the old beds in the place. There were 6, all small for him, but as he went to one, he examined the bolts that pinned them to the ground. Some were old, stuck out enough that he could remove them by hand, and some he probably could loosen and remove with a strip of metal as leverage. He began to remove whatever he could with his large, strong fingers. "What about your sisters and brothers?" Fellow asked as Shalana chewed at her hand.
Let me just say this. You think I'm big. My sister was taller and broader than me. That woman was all muscle.
He pulled at a bed, the bolts creaking as he tested how strong it still was. "Oh, she sounds frightening."
She was one of the most frightening people I ever met, as well as the most caring. She took after Mom, overbearing in her own way, but she'd fight to the death for you if she felt you were in trouble.
Parsons tried to lift one of the beds off the ground. A few rusty and loose bolts broke off and rolled across the ground.
She got married to a man almost as large as her, but much quieter and calmer. They had a few kids, my nieces and nephews. Good kids.
One bolt was stubborn, so Parsons grabbed it and wiggled it free. It was taking some time, but it gave him something to focus on as he talked.
My older brother never really found a place to belong, but that was fine. He just sort of drifted around in life. Strongly suspect he had little interest in living.
He got the bolt free and lifted up the bed, moving to the side as he looked at the other beds and examined for the one easiest to move.
I worried about him often. We all did, but he assured us he was fine.
Finally, he chose one that already had 2 bolts missing. The remaining ones hadn't rusted much, so he was going to need to work harder at getting them loose. He tested them and found one easy enough to unscrew.
Youngest one went with me to the army. Wonderful kid. Found a husband there. He never really was cut out for engineering or anything high-tech, so they put him on the front lines when the Psy attacked.
The last bolt was being difficult. If he had tools, it'd be easy, but he didn't. He wiggled it, he pulled it, he moved the bed around.
He was shot before any of this happened. Right in the chest. Survived, only to be shot again later, this time in the neck by a sniper. We all attended his funeral.
The stubborn bolt refused to move. As he wiggled and pulled, it stayed put. Parsons' muscles tensed up. Things long repressed slowly unwound in him as he talked.
I remember he and his future husband hadn't gotten married yet. They wanted to deny him entry.
He started to pull the whole bed up. He strained as he fought against the old, worn metal, growled as he did, and then suddenly shook the whole bed.
We all threatened the people denying entry, especially my sister. Frack them, they had no right!
He pulled the bed harder and harder, the bolt staying put despite the tension.
They had no fracking right!
Pulled hard as he could, but it was no use. He attempted to throw it across the room, the bolt still holding on despite his efforts. The bed screeched across the floor, but stayed bolted down. Parsons slowly lowered himself down and wrapped all 4 arms around his legs. He felt a gentle hand on his shoulder. He heard the small burble of a baby. She sounded upset, but not quite crying yet. He sat there, lenses of his armor fogging up with tears as he, after so long, after so many battles, after so much violence and hate, finally found a moment to grieve. The exile hobbled along his halls. Regretfully, he remembered his family. He remembered his father, taking him out to hunt and being so impressed by his use of the spear that he took him to train as a warrior. He remembered how he excelled, how his father and mother praised him, how he'd be a great warrior with many suitable mates, and how important warriors were as protectors of their people. He also remembered the uncaring and hateful glare of his mother, the feeling of warm spit on his cheek from where his father spat at him, and most of all, he remembered his hands. Roslings had fragile, small bones under exoskeleton and skin. The bones were just for structure. The exoskeleton was hard to break, but it certainly was breakable. You just had to keep hitting it until you heard a crack. Necomancer, I agree. The bolt breaking wouldn't have been nearly as satisfying as the bolt staying there and just exemplifying Parsons' helplessness. Pierre only just now wants to hug Parsons. Like, oh, this man, he's needed a hug for a long time. It was the last lesson his father taught him, and the first time he had to deal with broken hands. They twitched as he walked down the hallways faster than usual, as if fleeing the memories that followed him. He remembered how he fled back then, too. He feared the people who once loved him more than the certain death in the forest around him offered. If it wasn't for a stranger's help, he'd have died. He almost did. He remembered how he starved, how he ate things he shouldn't because the alternative was nothing at all. The animals that tried to kill him, the animals he tried to kill, broken hands failing him as he prayed for a molt to make them right. But the molt was wrong. The molt was weak. They hadn't healed right. He remembered as he laid there, flies and carrion eaters all around him. He remembered how he looked forward to it finally being over. He remembered his mother's final words, and realized she was about to get her wish for him to no longer be part of this world. He remembered how she told him he'd die alone. "Are you okay, sir?" Suddenly snapped back to reality, the exile looked at the guard behind him.
Oh, Hus. I didn't realize you were there.
Hus was a Hilarian, as were most of the guards. He saluted with one hand on his forehead, the others on his chest, and another on the handle of his gun. A traditional salute to show one has respect, a heart, and a weapon ready. "Sir, you did give us orders to keep a guard around you at all times until the new prisoners are shipped out." You still have to catch up with the lore. College got you in a chokehold, but you like Parsons a lot. Yeah, I know, right? Such a great character. Just, he's got so much pain, but he's also so very present, and like he's got such control over his emotions for the most part, and it's seeing him let go of that control for a moment is just so fantastic. He has been so many layers of stoic throughout all of this that it's just like, oh wow. Honestly, one of Necomancer's favorite parts, the contrast between them remembering their families. Yeah, no, I do quite like the difference there too. And especially since the only one that we've really interacted with up to this point has been Falor. It's neat to see kind of that difference Not only in, kind of how Falor explains things, but also in how the exile explains. The exile looked at Hus, his head guard, the closest thing he had to a friend. The exile came back from the dark reality he'd barely escaped.
Right. It'd be very easy for someone to kill me and claim Parsons as their own, after all. How's your daughter, Hus? Vilia, I believe?
Hus tried to hide the faint smile and failed. She's doing much better, sir, thanks to the medicine you ordered.
We were overdue for medicine. Regardless, I just made sure it went where it was needed.
With a nod, Hus's smile wavered, only slightly. Are you okay, though, sir? You've been acting odd since that other Rosling and her, partner showed up.
Don't worry about it. It is a problem that will eventually solve itself once the investigators get here and we can be rid of them.
Can I ask why we didn't just open the bunker ourselves, sir?
Opening a bunker without the king's permission is an act of treason, Hus. Don't get me wrong, I'm as curious as anyone, but the entire wars have been started once a bunker has been opened up. I've fought enough wars, I'm done with them.
The guard decided not to pry further. He'd heard many rumors of the Baron's war stories, but he seemed reluctant to talk about them. You seem tired, sir. Let me escort you to your room. The Baron, the exile, and whatever else people thought of him has followed and, for a time, put his body to rest. His mind, however, was another matter. It was a few days later, and the exile had out on a black and red formal robe. Most male nobility wore suits, but the legs necessitated they thought outside the box.
Any luck with the vehicle they came in?
No, sir, said Hus as he carefully placed the armored knives on his baron's back, spider legs. Rumor had it they had been responsible for his combat skills and his victory in many bloody battles, acting as an extra blade and parrying others' advances. It drives away any time we get near it.
You're certain there is no one inside?
The exile admired himself in the mirror. It was rare that he got dressed up, and he actually quite enjoyed it. There's a big hole inside, sir. Mostly covered, but we can see through the cracks. We've looked from every angle. If there's someone, they are either invisible or very small. Doesn't seem to mind us watching it, just doesn't want us getting close. Without further discussion, they walked outside toward the trailer. People from town that had formed around the fort as they gathered to watch. Some guards held them off from getting too close. A door on the side of the trailer opened, and a man in a black suit slowly stepped out. He, much like the exile, walked with a cane, but he didn't really need one. He just felt walking was so dull and thought the cane made him look more noble. He looked around at his surroundings, as if he could do better, as if he was better. His bodyguard was behind him, a tall, odd creature with a long tendril on the back of his head. Member of the monster clan, the tendril was wrapped around what looked like a metal jester, trying to strangle it. Hello, love. Welcome in. Thank you for the lure keys. It's good to see you. The two were followed by one more person. She walked with a limp, and much like the exile, used a cane to walk properly, rather than for style. She wore simple clothing, a white dress with many pockets and a belt, a sharp contrast to the dressed-up man next to her. She winced as she looked up at the jester. Can they please put that down?
I fear he is in a strangling mood today, and it's either that thing or something else.
Oh, wait, that's a well-dressed man, sorry.
I fear he's in a strangling mood today, and it's either that thing or someone else,
said the well-dressed man as he approached the exile.
You're the local baron, correct? I'm Investigator Ashton. This is Ella and my bodyguard.
Professor Ella, said the young lady. She held out her one hand for the exile to shake, propped up by her cane under her arm. He took it, shook it, and offered her a respectful nod.
The king insisted an expert come, and, well, that's me. I'm sorry to say I've never seen a brooder sigh in person, and I'm not expecting to see one now, but I'd be happy to see what you have, Baron Verton.
There was an excitement in her eyes. Despite every rumor being dead end, she had hope. Hope that she'd get to educate people on how silly and easily fooled they are. It was always a thrill. Ashton looked at her like something he'd rather not step on before he turned back toward the exile.
If you take us to your findings, my goal here is only to find the bunker and get it open.
The bodyguard tossed the metallic jester in the air, which caused a strangled little scream from Ella's throat as the exile pointed toward it with a back limb. The guard managed to catch it, only slightly crushed under it. He held it up, victorious, as Ella rushed over to make sure it was okay. As she checked on it, Ashton seemed to glare at her.
Frankly, I'd have left Ella behind if I could. Ella's a horribly obnoxious person.
The exile said nothing, but did nod approvingly toward a guard as they helped Ella carry the heavy metal man. Ashton assumed the nod was toward him. Ashton leaned on his cane, even though he didn't need to.
Frankly, that metal thing is probably some madman's dream. Pathetic how Ella clings to it.
The exile decided to change the subject, and asked,
Do you know your body? Do you know your bodyguard's name?
I'm not sure it has one exactly.
Ashton responded, clearly not interested in learning anything new.
I should mention they did not say you were a Rosling. Impressed you managed to grab a noble title with your kind short lifespan giving you so little to do beyond survival.
The exile decided, then and there, he could take this backhand compliment, or he could hate this man forever. After a moment, the exile turned toward the fort.
Don't worry about the doll. 2 of my guards will keep it safe. Come with me if you will.
And just don't get your hopes up.
Ella began as she made sure to look back and watch the guards, just to be sure none of her precious treasures, and or junk, was taken.
Usually it's just a monster from the Monster Clan or one of those robots you see occasionally, you know, the horrific murder ones, dressed up in leather. They go a little crazy sometimes, you know, more crazy than a murder robot usually is.
She walked down the halls of the fort, 3 canes clacking against the floor as the monster bodyguard followed behind them.
Once saw one wear skin. That wasn't pleasant, though it might have just disemboweled someone and this king sort of clung to it. I don't know. Just know if you get one of them, I'm glad it's behind bars.
They went downstairs toward the prison, everyone but Ella quiet as they approached.
Thing is, it'd be even worse if you did get a brooder sigh. Those things were monsters, horrible
Her words caught in her throat. Parsons laid across several beds he had pushed together. Shalana was on top of him, quietly playing with a yellow round fruit they'd given her as a toy. It was meant to be food, but the poor thing needed something to keep her occupied. Fowler was there too, reading a book she'd been given, though less reading and more looking at pictures. They'd barely reacted to the group as they approached until they noticed there were new ones among them. Parsons sat up, moving Shalana to his lap. The Exile is such a cool character name. I think so too. It stood out to me as particularly well chosen. Necomancer still considers going back and forth between titles depending on context. I think you should, personally, but I follow that kind of stuff fairly well. Yeah, get a few beta readers and see which one they like better. Ella dropped her cane, moved forward, and grabbed the bars.
You're not a robot!
Parsons said nothing, confused by the very statement.
Robots don't have the lower arms, they have knives or something down there, and I can't see your eyes through the holes. The kid actually has 4 eyes, and they're blue, and...
Ella looked at Shalana's feet. 5 toes, no hooves or anything like that.
Those feet! Does she have a tail?
Tails don't come in right away, but hers is slowly growing.
said Parsons, still in a bit of a daze from the unexpected enthusiasm.
Comes in fully around age 3.
He read childcare books.
Valor added helpfully as she continued to read her book.
So have I didn't think you'd know that.
Ellis took a moment to breathe, her lungs threatening to give out almost as much as her legs. She felt a hand on her shoulder, the exile gently trying to support her.
Wait, why are you with her? The brutes are...
Brute.
Parsons corrected her, his voice firm, but only slightly on edge.
We are called brutarians, not brutes.
Right, sorry, I'm so sorry. Records of your people are hard to find. The side did a much better job, and I kind of realized it was mostly propaganda because honestly, they're not good at hiding their own flaws. Like, it's insane some of the stuff they did and thought was normal, though they totally made you guys out to be mindless monsters, but mindless monsters don't make civilizations, and you guys built to last. Well, everything but your history, apparently, since we lost that, but your buildings...
Who the frack are you?
Despite everything, Parsons' tone was tinged with only a bit of frustration and a large dose of utter bafflement.
Right, I'm Professor Ella. I studied you and the Psi, but I've never met any of your kind before, so
So,
said Parsons, his tone turned darker.
there really are not any other survivors?
Ella felt her joy slowly fade as the situation fully nestled in her mind. This was a person, she had to remind herself. A person. Just dropping in to say hi, Naruto? Well, thank you. It's good to see you. I'm glad you still drop in from time to time.
I'm sorry. Maybe there are some in bunkers? I read a report that a few of your kind took them over, so some of the unopened ones might have people. That little one there might be able to open it up, actually. All it needs is a Psi to touch the lock in most cases. Some we got open through other means, just age or force. Most we haven't.
Ashton moved up beside Ella, pushing her aside just enough to make her wobble, but not fall over.
A child can open a bunker. The bunker under the fort.
Ashton turned toward the exile.
Baron, take that child immediately from the giant and open the bunker.
The exile began to protest, but everyone went quiet when they heard the growl. The deep, fear-inducing growl. A growl that hit you in your spine and traveled up and down your body, your nerves shouting at you. They screamed that you were in deep, dark, horrible danger, the most primal of fears, like hearing a growl next to your ear in the dark that reminds you of why your ancestors built walls between them and the outside.
Energy, hi, welcome in.
Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us. Ella fell down, her grip on the bars making it a slow, painless fall at least. The exile felt his body freeze. Ashton had trouble controlling some very embarrassing bodily functions. Even his bodyguard backed away from the cell as all eyes turned toward Parsons, who held Shalana close after his warning. The baby giggled. Valor looked up from her book toward Parsons.
You know, I once saw him grab someone's head and smash it into the ground until it was mush, and that guy only shot him.
She then went back to her book. The exile hit his cane on the ground, drawing attention back to him.
Bunkers cannot open without the king's authority.
And he only shot him is one of your favorite lines from Valor. I can see why.
I am the king's authority in this matter.
Ashton's voice was shaking as he spoke.
I assure you, we'll be fine. Go get some guards too.
You are welcome to try and take the child yourself, but I will not risk the lives of my guards,
The exile said with a shrug.
Don't be ridiculous. The purpose of...
A pair of fingers slipped through the narrow bars, hooked over Ashton's shoulder, and pulled him toward them, hard. He found pain in his shoulder as bruising force squeezed down, which made him yelp before his bodyguard grabbed Ashton with his tendril and pulled him free. Parsons went back to his bed, wishing the bars were far enough apart to have strangled Ashton rather than just bruise his shoulder. Ella slowly pulled herself up and felt something tap her arm. She let out a small scream, only to see that it was her cane the exile offered to her.
Oh, right. Thank you.
She took the cane and moved away from the cell. She tried to keep what she hoped was a safe distance. The exile seemed to be the only one not at all shook up by what just happened. He just looked at Parsons, looked at Chilana, avoided looking at Falor, and turned toward the others.
I imagine you've had a long journey. I will set up rooms for all three of you, and we can prepare your report for the king later.
What? Threaten the damned thing. We'll kill it. It's not like it can fight back.
Still fearful, her voice quivered as Ella spoke up.
Armored suits like his are immune to most weaponry we have. You'd need advanced bunker tech to actually hurt him.
So grab some.
The exile, who knew very well he still had Parsons' rifle and pistol, shrugged.
We have none.
Ashton turned toward Ella. He pointed his cane at her.
Get some weapons from your trailer.
I don't have weapons. That'd be illegal. I just have technology from their era.
Do you have a sound slider?
Everyone's... Oh. Let's see, who is that speaking? Oh, Parsons.
Do you have a sound slider?
Everyone stared at Parsons as he said this, as if some spell had been broken. Ella felt her nerves relax, replaced by excitement.
Wait, do you know how to use one? I've been trying to make mine work for ages.
Can I see it?
Against all logic, against all advice or practical thought, she handed one that she kept in one of her many pockets to him. It was a square box, gray in color, with a small wire attached to it that had a soft, spongy circle at the end. It was covered in buttons. Parsons took it, examined it, opened the back, handed it back.
Batteries are dead. This light should have lit up green when I opened it.
How can I fix that? Can I get new ones? Recharge it?
I doubt there are battery stores anywhere around here.
Ashton rubbed his shoulder, determined to get his way.
We can get some in the bunker if you just...
A cane slammed on the ground, the exile even more determined to make sure Ashton didn't get his way.
That is enough for tonight. You have traveled long, you are tired, you will rest, and in the morning I will send word to the king and see what he wishes.
I will speak to the king.
Ashton spoke, trying to match the authority of the exile.
But yes, it's been a long day and I need to check my shoulder to make sure this brute didn't break anything.
Do let me know. I want to fix that if it didn't.
Parsons' voice was deep, tinged with just the slightest hint of threat, and more than a hint of promise. You know what? I'm going to try that line again, then.
Do let me know. I want to fix that if I didn't.
We'll go with it for now. Ashton decided it was better to ignore the giant beast, if only because Parsons scared him. Without further word, he walked off, his bodyguard following. Ella frowned.
It's not just me, right? He's sort of a jerk.
The exile did something unexpected. He laughed. Though they didn't speak of it, all those in the room felt it was the one thing they could agree on.
I am not at liberty to talk about such things. Let's get you to your room, Professor Ella. You have much important research to conduct.
In her room, late at night, Ella sat on a bed more expensive and soft, but less familiar than the one in her trailer, and therefore less comfortable. Some of her stuff was around her. This included the jester doll a few guards had carried inside. She looked at it.
Hey, sorry about that. Hope you're fine.
She often spoke to inanimate objects, also animals, sometimes bugs, if only because it felt like the polite thing to do. They didn't argue or try to talk over you, so it had its benefits. This was because they couldn't speak back. At least most of the time they didn't.
That's okay.
I was fine with it until the whole throwing part. The voice was flavored with a hint of whimsy and song, but that was all secondary to the fact that the jester had just talked. Its face began to light up as it did. It revealed a white, smiling mask on its screen, like a smiling theater mask. Ella was quiet. She knew her world was about to be turned upside down for the second time tonight. That, or quite possibly she was going insane. She might also be dreaming or dead. A professor liked to consider all possibilities before she panicked. I imagined that, right? No. Ella slowly moved toward the corner of the room. At least there it couldn't sneak up behind her. Okay, I need you to do me a favor. Go outside and make sure someone else sees you so I know I'm not insane. The jester stood up, its face bright, smile on its digital mask never shifting. It was a slightly disturbing smile, but the smile all the same. It went to the door, opened it, tapped a guard on the shoulder and said, "Hello, I exist, correct?" The guard gave a brief scream.
What in the king's name?
The jester turned around and closed the door. See? I'm real. The guard was still yelling.
You didn't tell me it was alive.
Standing there, eyes wide, mouth shut, brain full of muddled thoughts and confusion, Ella finally found words.
The frack? How are you working?
Would you believe I'm solar powered?
Yes?
You shouldn't. I'm not. The jester walked over to her, leaned over, face only inches from her own. She took a good long look at it. Its colors of green and purple and yellow, the tassels on its midsection seemed to float in the air, its hat doing the same. The 3 tassels on its ending in a heart, a skull, and a spiked ball. Its face occasionally flashed static. The only thing dull on it was a big black boot on one of the jester's legs. It's nice to meet you. You can call me Jingles.
Ella,
said Ella automatically.
Professor Ella, Professor of Dead Cultures.
Perfect! Jingles leaned back, slapping his hands together as his tassels floated in the air. He spun around to the circle before facing her again. I am neither dead nor a culture. If I was one of those, but now I'm not. Now I have a very important question for you. Ella nodded, feeling overwhelmed, but not at all threatened. Jingles seemed perfectly safe, for the given value of safe. At the very least, he'd shown no violent tendencies. What do you need?
What do you need?
Do you have a gun I can borrow? Oh my goodness, this chapter. Ashton was alone in his room. A big but mostly empty room fitting his personality. The bodyguard didn't count. It wasn't like it was a person. He had sent a message to the king via an old long-distance communication device. He had no idea how it worked. No one did. They just knew they did until they didn't. Thankfully, the fort had one that could reach the king. He wore 2 earphones over his head, talking into a small microphone. Oh hey, that's what I'm doing.
According to Ella, they are indeed authentic, and that means the baby can be used to open various bunkers. As you can see, this is a major find. Fortunately, the local Rosling you put in charge doesn't want to open a bunker without your permission. I told him I have the...
Wait,
Came the king's voice from the old device.
did someone ask him to open the bunker? Without my permission?
Ashton went quiet. It'd be a lie to say there were few things he feared, but it would be the truth to say the king was one of the many things he did. He was, after all, his superior and capable of having Ashton killed with only a word, but it was mostly the fact that the king was his superior.
The, professor sent me, which was curious.
I'll have to have a talk with Ella later. Now, whatever happens, make absolutely certain the child is secured. You have my permission to open the bunker before I arrive, but you will ensure the child stays safe no matter the circumstances. Make sure the Baron understands this.
Of course, my king.
Ashton was afraid of saying anything else now, so he stuck with what he knew. Absolute subservience to a higher power.
Good. It will take me a week to arrive. Get everything secure, and if worst comes to worst, make sure the body is safe.
The body?
We've opened the doors with Dead Sai before, we can do it again.
So, you've never laid any eggs?
No, the whole process is sort of a lot. Some women don't really recover properly. It hurts a whole bunch too. Parsons and Fowler were engaged in a casual cultural exchange, as had become their habit when they had nothing else to do. They had tried sleeping in shifts, but right now Shalana was being fussy. Her version of fussy being non-stop little whimpers until someone took care of her. Parsons had started to get to know her. He knew the difference between a distressed whimper and a happy one by now, and her current gurgles as she rolled along the bed were certainly happy. The trick was making sure she didn't fall off. I like raising the kids, though. It's the entire tribe's job, but eventually all an adult usually picks a child to mentor or parent. And since we mate in pairs, often the mate is chosen as a second parent. Between you and me, the kids are the ones who usually choose, but since I didn't mate or lay eggs, I was delegated to more of a big sister role. Honestly, one of the hard parts is with the eggs, making sure the little ones don't attack each other when they hatch. They wake up hungry, so we have to make sure they find proper food before they find each other. She was almost done with the book she got. It would be the polite thing to return it in good condition as a thank you for being given it. Since she was a prisoner, she was happily ripping out the occasional page to wipe up Shalana's spit. Parsons carefully poked Shalana on the forehead.
I wonder if she'll be eating solid food soon.
No idea, but they at least make sure we can feed her, poor thing.
It's important that she stays alive,
Came a voice from the stairs. Both of them looked up to see who had just spoken. The exile was heading toward the cells, past the guards at the end of the hallway that led to it. He swayed as he walked, the smell of alcohol present. Uh-huh. What do you want? Said Fowler, quite tired of this conversation already.
I was thinking.
The exile moved toward the bars, close enough for Parsons to grab, but the giant man felt it was best not to attack their captor at this time. It sounded like he was about to say something stupid and possibly useful. As he leaned on the bars, he continued.
You abandoned your people. The guards have been listening. They told me you're a brood mother with no brood. Ha! How many children did you abandon? More or less than I heard?
Hurt? You didn't hurt them. You starved them, you incredibly pathetic excuse for her. He hit the bars hard enough to rattle them.
I was supposed to be a warrior. Did you know the other cultures know you sacrifice the weak for the strong? It's been practical. It's about the tribe's survival. They don't do it because they hate kids. They do it to keep going.
And we had to keep going despite the famine. The edge in Fowler's voice had grown sharper with every word, book forgotten.
We might not have.
He slowly slinked down. He sat and leaned against the bars.
It makes sense. You left too. You left them.
I was told to save us from another horrible monster. And no offense, Parsons.
None taken.
Parsons casually listened to all this, ready to step in if Fowler needed him, but he strongly suspected she wouldn't. When it came to a verbal lashing, he firmly believed her his better.
And you didn't go back. Imagine how useful he'd be. He could have become a friend of the tribe. A child could have a proper upbringing, but no, you left. You abandoned them and for what?
Oh, someone, welcome in. Let me just. Ara. Well, think we'll go with that one for now. Hope you're having a good time.
Okay, first off, Parsons wasn't going to stay. That was clear. Second,
Valor paused, since this had been something she herself had struggled with justifying. She had left them. She had chosen to see the world with Parsons instead of go back.
they'll be fine.
Faye,
The exile began to lay down, his back limbs twitched.
at least you got to leave willingly. I didn't want to see this world. It's horrible.
What's got you feeling sus, Delta Free? It has indeed been a while, someone, but I'm glad you dropped by.
Then you probably shouldn't have starved children.
She stood up, headed toward the bars, and then Falor looked down on the exile as he slowly began to lay down. Necomancer half expected an Ara Ara accidentally in Parsons' voice. Let's see what that would sound like.
Ora, ora.
There we go. We'll give you that one as a bonus.
You could go back. Why don't you?
Valor considered just telling him to go drown in a river for a moment, but decided she herself needed to put it into words.
Parsons and Shelana need me, and I think I need them too. I love my home, I love my people, but I wanted to see more, experience more.
Then tell them I can take your place.
Don't be stupid, they'd never let you come back.
The exile was quiet for a moment. The only sound was Shelana trying to bounce on the bed as Parsons kept her from the edge. I'm glad you approve, Rapier. Oh, someone, thank you for the biddies. Okay, Gramps, don't hurt your throat with that. You'll go get some lemon pudding. Okay, lemon pudding sounds really nice. Thank you for that, Delta Free. Gotta throw a bit to get that extra point. Oh, well, thank you. It's appreciated. Oh my goodness.
Why didn't they just kill me?
I don't know. Might have been better, but at least you got something now, so stop whining already.
You want some lemon pudding too, Rapier? We'll just have to make some after-stream lemon pudding for everyone. I'm sure that's how that works.
Something fair. I have no power or responsibilities, only skill with a sword. I did not ask for only broken parts. My leg drags, my hands hurt every day, and have since the day my father broke them.
Your father broke your hands? For the first time, Falor sounded something less than venomous.
They wanted me to die alone and in shame.
Quiet fell over the room. Even Shalana was quiet now, though mostly because she was taking a nap. Parsons moved her gently to a pile of blankets on the ground where she didn't risk falling if she woke up. Someone has only had chocolate, vanilla, and banana pudding? Didn't know lemon was an option? It is, and it's kind of tasty. Oh, you have some lemon fruit gelatin yesterday, but no pudding? Hey, I'll take the gelatin. Oh my goodness. Oh, we're gonna end up with the pudding redeem at this rate. Quiet fell over the room. Even Shalana. Alright, yes. Didn't risk falling if she woke up.
They shouldn't have done that to you.
Falor admitted as she laid down on her own bed.
You're still pitiful, though.
I think he's had enough, Valor.
Parsons said with unexpected sympathy.
A pudding chubby bunny? Oh my goodness, that would end up with pudding sprayed all over my machine. I don't think so. Cat litter and lemon pudding you purchase after work? I approve, Necomancer. A few moments of quiet happened as the exile sat up. He was well aware Parsons or Fowler could reach him through the bars, and he was well aware they were aware.
I know I'm going to die alone. My own mother told me so. I know the few people who loved me threw me toward my death, unable to do the job themselves.
Fowler and Parsons didn't say anything. Baby was also quiet, and for a moment the exile looked directly at the child. There was a time this would cause mild panic, but right now Parsons and Fowler looked at him with nothing but pity.
I'd feel more sympathetic if you didn't lock us in a cage, you'll know,
Fowler finally said.
That got a brief
But unexpected laugh from the exile.
If I could do otherwise, I would.
He paused briefly and looked toward the stairway.
Ashton will make you an offer. Say no.
What offer?
It doesn't matter. It will make you the king's pet. Do not accept it. That man is a monster.
The exile slowly walked up, shakily, down the hallway and away from them. As the two of them watched him go, one of the guards offered him his arm.
Is Chubby Bunny available today? Yes, it is. I do have the marshmallows sitting right next to me. So, yeah, those are there if we want to do a Chubby Bunny redeem. Thank you for asking first, though. I do appreciate it.
Ella visited them soon after.
She was followed by Jingles, who did not have a gun and was not going to be given one. She had waited outside patiently as the exile had drunkenly ranted at the two. She knew better than to interrupt a drunk man with power, or someone with a sword, and the exile had been all three. Well, interrupt a drunk, a man with power, or someone with a sword. The exile had been all three. She walked toward the bars, where Parsons laid down on as many beds as he had pushed together. Jingles did a cartwheel as he entered, landing on his feet and turning toward the jail cell. Hey, so I
What the frack is that?
Parsons said as he looked over at Jingles.
Hello!
Jingles said, and his face grew bright as he spoke.
I am many things. A clown, a jester, a harlequin, an entertainer, a soldier, a terror, a force, a source of humor, a source of sorrow, a reflection of the arrogance of man, a war criminal, a survivor, a person who didn't survive, a hero, a monster, and most of all, I am here. I want to, actually practice that a little bit and do it properly. That'll be so fun. Very well done with that, Necomancer. It said its name is Jingles.
Ella's voice sounded exhausted but eager.
The sort of tired you get when you're emotionally charged but physically worn down. Wait, you don't know what it is?
With a swirl of his body, Jingles turned in a circle and faced Ella.
I am a he, madam. Right, of course, sorry.
Parsons shook his head. He had never seen any robots beside the Terrors.
No, I've never seen anything like him. Maybe the Psy made him?
I thought that, but he has only 2 eyes, no tail, except those tassels, I guess. So, wait, you didn't make robots like this?
Ella kept her eye side-eyeing Jingles, trying not to be rude while also afraid to let him out of her sight, as well as trying to avoid getting his attention on her. Necomancer loves that intro and wants to start doing every stream with that as you go into it as Jingles. Yes! Oh, that would be so cool, Necomancer. Would be a great intro.
No, I have.
There is a child in a cage.
Jingles moved closer to the bars, his steps slow but without any hesitation. No twirls, no spins. Something in his voice had changed, as if he was now actually paying attention.
That's Shalana. She's a baby I am taking care of until we can find parents for her.
Valor, who had been quiet during all this, decided to continue to be so. But the look she gave Shalana and Parsons said enough. That child might not be her blood, but that was her child until such time as she had let it go. A time she hoped would not come. Still, she was there until it happened.
I'm not really a fan either, Jingles.
Ella spoke as she moved carefully with her cane toward the bars, but not close enough for Parsons to reach her just in case.
They put a baby in a cage.
Jingle's voice had lost its whimsy, dull, lifeless, and with a sort of lucidity that bordered on violence. As he talked, the true weight of the situation began to settle on Ella, who found herself becoming increasingly uncomfortable.
Well, I can't really control that. Let out soon. I can control it.
Jingles leaned back from the bars, did a few flips away from it, hit his bells jingling and his big black boots stomping.
Later, I imagine. For now, I am only here. I will wait until we can be there.
I hate acting serious. When I act serious, people die. Oh, you know what? Let's use the Jingles voice for it.
I hate acting serious. When I act serious, people die. It's not because I want to kill. It's because the situation is to be very terrible for me to take it seriously.
A future line you need from Jingles. You know what? I approve, Necomancer. Nobody but Jingles seemed to understand what this meant. Thankfully, he felt he was the only one who needed to understand. Ella rubbed her cheek, leaning on her cane.
I'm sorry. I'd have preferred to give you a better introduction to our people.
The exhaustion of her body was finally demanding her mind pay attention to it.
You seem to have many people,
Parsons said. He found himself not hating Ella like he had most of the people he'd met today. She seemed, if nothing else, not a horrible person.
I've seen mostly your sort, though. The ones with the hooves.
Valerians, yeah. We're the most common in the kingdom.
Kingdom? What's the kingdom's name?
We just call ourselves the kingdom.
And why is it mostly Valerians?
Well, there's a few theories on that. We have 3 hatchel arms, we don't need much rest, our blood clots fast, so bleeding out almost never happens, giving us an advantage in war since our soldiers can fight longer.
Wait, you only have one arm.
Wait, you only have one arm?
Valor said when she suddenly noticed the look Parsons gave her. Despite his mask, she could sense disapproval within Parsons.
Birth defect. I'm blind in one eye too.
You've not had it easy. This time Jingles was the one who spoke. None of us have, I imagine. That will not change. We are far too interesting, and people who are interesting never have it easy. Ella smiled a small smile. She had to admit he was growing on her.
Hey, so you really have no idea what that is?
Have you tried asking him?
Yes. Jingles, who made you?
Blind chaos, Jingles responded. Ella turned back to Parsons and Valor.
Last time you said colorful whimsy.
That too. Ooh, Jingles was created by a joint effort. I love it. Ella carefully sat down on the floor, wondering why no one had put a chair in this room, only to nearly fall at least once. She found Jingles by her side. He did not help her, but waited next to her. He gave the distinct impression he was ready to help, should he be needed.
What can you tell me about the brew?
She asked as she sat on the cold floor. It was uncomfortable, but at least more comfortable than standing.
Tell you what, I'll answer any questions you have if you answer mine.
Okay, first question. Is it true you have 100 teeth?
I, never counted, but we have a lot of them. They grow and fall out here and there. I check every morning, or used to when I could, to see if I had any loose ones and remove them.
Oh, that's terrifying, said Ella, her tone bright and fascinated.
My turn. Who is the king?
A tall, four-armed man rumored to be a cyborg will imprison or punish anyone who says so. He looks like a Hilarian but has 4 arms instead of 3, rules the kingdom, wants to access the bunkers. Ella's voice was flat and factual. As someone who cared about people, she didn't like to think about the local government.
Why did...
My turn. What was your family like?
Tensions rose in the room. Parsons looked at Ella as if she had just threatened to kill his family all over again. He closed his eyes, trying to find a way to address this without breaking down again.
Mother, father, 3 siblings, small family group, close to all of them.
Oh, that's Valor. Shoot. You have a friend who says, "Ooh, that's terrifying," brightly, and you channeled that? Yeah, it's good times.
Mother, father, 3 siblings, small family group, close to all of them,
Fowler said, offering a supportive interruption.
Oh, we talked about them earlier. It's a sore subject. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't...
Ella began, only for Parsons to hold up one big hand, the lower 2 picking up Shalana as she tried to crawl up his leg.
You didn't know.
Tension that Parsons felt slowly cooled down as he reminded himself this wasn't her fault, and he had agreed to this. He made a note that if he ever got a chance to talk to Ella under better circumstances, he'd give her better answers.
Okay, why does the king want to access the bunkers?
The weapons mostly. Well, he tends to...
Ella rubbed the back of her neck.
There are a lot of wars going on. We're winning most of them.
Silence fell over the room again as Parsons processed this. He looked down at Shalana.
I will not be taking part in any more wars of conquest.
With a frown, Ella looked to the ground.
They might not give you a choice.
We'll see.
No, I mean, see, there's these guys called the Monster Clan, and if they don't want to fight for the king, he has this drug that...
Suddenly, Jingles jumped onto the ceiling, crawled around it, and seemed to jingle away. They all watched this, unable to really stop him. After he left, a guard came in.
Miss Professor Ella? The Baron gave orders that no one is to bother the prisoners anymore tonight.
The guard had been hesitant to say anything. The robot scared him, but he was gone now. She frowned, but nodded and did her best to get up. The guard stood there awkwardly, stuck between wanting to help and not wanting her to feel helpless by helping. In the end, he offered her his hand. As they parted ways, Parsons laid his head back on the bed, Shalana crawling across his body and all 4 arms doing their best to keep her from falling off.
I'm going to try and get some sleep.
Good idea. It sounds like we have a lot of no's to say tomorrow.
Fowler said as she gently went to watch Shalana until morning came. They would find either death or freedom, or perhaps both. Ashton. Okay.
I don't care if he's sleeping off whatever drug he crammed himself full. I will speak with him immediately.
The guards at the exile's door stood steadfast against the barrage of yelling disguised as authority in front of them as Ashton demanded entry.
Sorry, sir. He should be awake by morning.
Who stood firm. The other guard followed his lead.
This is important.
Ashton slammed his cane to the ground, the sound loud enough to make him think it mattered.
Yes, sir. I imagine it is.
The investigator considered having his bodyguard throw Hoos down the hallway. His eye twitched in irritation.
Then come with me so I can get that blue little monster and open the bunker. I have express permission.
No, sir, said Hoos with the simple authority of a man doing his job.
Have any idea who I am?
I believe you informed me of your station at least 3 times by now, sir.
Do you want me to make this into a problem? Sir, with all due respect, the Baron is fallen asleep. was irritable when woken up. For him to be honest, he does not like you. For your safety, I'll suggest you wait until morning.
Ashton laughed.
Are you serious? You really think the Baron would order you to restrain me?
No, sir, not restrain. Ashton's face fell, and he eyed his bodyguard. The bodyguard could easily take on these 2 guards, but there were more. He could not take on the Baron's small army.
I will return in the morning. I will absolutely have what I'm entitled to. I will absolutely inform the king of this.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you informing the king I'm doing my duty. The other guard held back a chuckle. Ashton walked away and told himself it was for the absolute last time. Jingles wasn't a warrior. He wasn't an assassin. He was built to entertain and to be a source of joy and playful conflict for people. That just means his skills, as anything he was not meant to be, had to be learned. And Jingles was a surprisingly fast learner when it came to things he wanted to do. For example, no one noticed him climb the outside of the fort. No one noticed him move through the shadows, despite his height and colorful outfit. No one noticed him slip into the armory when the guard went off to talk to someone for just a moment. No one noticed the guns he grabbed. And hopefully no one would notice him waiting in the shadows on the ceiling